What's up, guys? This is big news here. We are top players talking about the most major topics of the week. I am Alchemist. I have here with me number one kid NA, Boris,
Hey, what's up,
and
everyone?
and I got the two time One Piece champion, CrossAI.
Yo, what's up? How y'all doing, man?
All right. So we're just going to jump right into it. First thing we're going to talk about is the invite changes to nationals. Before, you had to play your way in. You had to go through eight to 10 rounds of grueling participation to get your spot. And now you can just show up and be in the tournament, while people who have earned their invites get a 2 round bye, so they get to sit around and get iced out for 2 whole hours before they get to play. What do you think about this, Boris?
So let's just start by mentioning that previously other Bandai games, I think they've done a different national system. I think they mentioned in the article because of COVID. I think they had store championships, and those would kind of feed into the national tournament. And so, from what I've heard in the past, nationals ended up being like a huge tournament for Dragon Ball and Digimon. I think Cross, you played Digimon maybe, so you might have some insight into that. Um, but from what I heard, they were big anyways. So I think on the one hand, they do give out a lot of invites. Um, is it with the top 16? But every single tournament, how many regionals have there been? I'm not sure if anyone's actually ran the numbers on how many people would end up being there. But I think with that said, I think there is some like nice sense of exclusivity, knowing that you fought really hard, and it's not easy to get top 16. At least I don't think so. I think it's pretty hard. I mean, you don't have to get you could probably get away with like top 20, top 24 if enough invites pass down, but it's not easy. It's a lot of rounds. So I think it would be nice to kind of get something that only those people get. For example, a long time ago, I used to play Yu-Gi-Oh, and I ended up qualifying for Yu-Gi-Oh Nats long time ago, and they gave out an exclusive playmat that was super cool. It had Cyber Dragon on there. It was the first year they did it, and I just thought it was an awesome memory and an awesome kind of thing just to take back with you and say, look, I did really well, managed to qualify. But at the same time, uh, if it's open, depending if you're able to get in, you can take all your homies with you that didn't qualify. They might, they'll get to play, and you have it'll be a more fun experience, I think, in that sense. So I don't know, Cross, what do you think?
Um, so when initially saw this, I actually I wasn't too pressed about it. Like I thought it was annoying, but I wasn't like as mad as about it as I probably should have because I know I saw a lot of players on Twitter. They were very vocal about it and mad about it. Um, Personally, I'm grinding for tournaments because I was grinding for Luffy's rather than invites, which is why it wasn't like too significant to me at first. But I do understand that there's a lot of people who be going out to like a lot of different tournaments grinding for that invite. So it feels really bad for all those people who already grinded for their invites and then are finding out they did all that work for almost no reason. Like sure, you get like the first 2 rounds are like buys, right? But like come on, bro. Like when people have still spent like all that money on trips and stuff like that, just trying to for the people who are trying to earn their invite and stuff like that. So that was kind of strange. And then the lack of exclusivity, like I low key kind of like it, but I think if they were gonna do that, they should have done it at the start of the season. Like from a competitive player standpoint, I don't like it because I would rather just have like a really hard tournament where everybody who gets to the top really like dukes it out, and we really decide who goes to Worlds. But on the same hand, with it being more inclusive and One Piece being such like a big IP and stuff like that, I think it's great for players who are getting like late into the game or stuff like that. Just like just to have like more people there, like there could be like a really large attendance and would also probably help boost the game in popularity. Uh, Now that Nats isn't exclusive, I just think that if they were going to do that, or if they're planning to do that, they should have announced it sooner. Because I'm pretty sure the only reason they're doing this now is because they got rid of store champ invites, right? So they probably just weren't expecting like enough people for Nats, and they still got to like break bread or something like that. So I'm assuming that's the reason. I low key think it's kind of whack to switch mid reason. They should have just done it like right in the first place. But people make mistakes, so we'll see what happens next season. But for the
You
moment,
do
I'm
bring up
not
a good
too
point
mad
that I
about it.
hadn't thought about. Is a lot of people have joined the One Piece game like in the last few months. I know in
Yeah, yeah.
Atlanta, our community, there's a whole bunch of people. Half of our community just joined, like I say, within the last maybe in like June, July months. So for them, they're not gonna have as many opportunities as someone who, like me and Alec, who've been playing since January. So
Yeah.
that is a good point. I hadn't thought about that. But yeah, definitely. You can, Alchemist. You remember? I was stressing out. I'm like, man, like I'm doing so well in all these treasure
That's
cups, and I
actually
can't
so
get my
true.
invite. And it was just like
Yeah.
stressing me out to the point where like I was burnt. I was getting burned out because I just like, man, like I just need one good finish on a regional. And then if I knew that anybody could go and I didn't need
You'd
an
be
invite to
chilling.
go, I would have been a lot less stressed throughout the year. So
Yeah.
I did end up getting my invite finally, but
Like
I
right
guess
before
now it's
they
just
announced it,
literally
right?
like literally like
Oh
a
yeah,
week or
you
2 weeks
did.
before they
Yeah,
announced
right
it.
before they announced it. Yeah.
So that was pretty funny,
So
but
I think the main
Do
thing that's happening here. Oh wait, what were you gonna say, Cross? Sorry.
I was gonna say, do y'all know Justin DeZazzo? He's a
That's
really good law player.
that's
Yeah, he won
Luffy
like three.
TCG, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
back to
Luffy
back treasure
TCG.
cups, right? I think he
Yeah,
won.
and
Yeah.
he didn't have his invite, so this is actually he was stressing about that too. So I just
Dang.
thought I'd mention that. But yeah,
So I think the main thing that they're doing here is they didn't expect the game to be so big, so all the tournaments are so hard to get into that maybe they're just giving some people a chance to try to get into this tournament that like just have the inability to get into any tournaments. Because the only reason that this becomes like a thing that's worthwhile, in my opinion, is if somebody shows up that couldn't get their Nats invites because they didn't have the money or the skills to get into a tournament, and they end up doing really well. Other than that, it's like if you can't get your invite the regular way, like what are your chances of being able to beat people who have like earned their invite over and over and over again? It's just like a show up to hang out type thing, and it seems ultimately pointless in my opinion to do unless, like I said, there's just that guy that can't get into any tournaments that
yeah.
makes it into top 8 or gets a world invite, and then it becomes a Cinderella story where Bandai did the most honorable thing because they fucked up in the beginning. You know what I mean? Because it's like if they made the cap just better, then that particular person would have gotten a tournament to earn their spot anyways.
I think also there's kind of the East Coast and West Coast, so obviously it's going to favor people on the West Coast because they don't have to pay for a flight. They can, if they're in California, they can just drive down. So for them, they can, if they register, they're going to be able to make it. Whereas on our side, if you have to pay for flight and hotel for 3 nights or whatever, then it ends up being kind of expensive. So depending on how they do registration, we're still not sure, right? Because I'm assuming we're going to have regionals up until near the end of the year. So for example, if you don't get if they don't do registrations until like December, and then by that time, like that's when you can lock in whether you're going to go or not. Flights might be super expensive, right? Whereas if you have at least if I have my invite now, I can go ahead and know I can go, so I'm going to go ahead and book my stuff right
That's
away.
pretty nice, yeah.
But it definitely favors, I think, West Coast players in that regard, right? Because they, no matter what, if it's signups are in December or January, like they can just go anyways. So
I'm gonna just drive down. So I mean, I'm in Arizona, so
What?
yeah. But I like how inclusive that. I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's like from a competitive standpoint, I'm kind of mad, but that is like very inclusive because like Cali, that's like a hot spot for Nats. Like
Yeah.
there could really be like just so many. I don't know what the Nats cap is gonna be, but like they're probably filling out, right? If it's an exclusive and it's in Cali. So
Especially if
yeah.
you want to like make money in the game, because there's a high chance of just exclusive cards in the game. So it's pretty much like if you live in Cali and you get to go to Nats and they have Nat exclusive cards, it's free money. There'd be no reason to like not to go.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right, let's move on to our next topic. So we have been living in a post-ban world. We're still on the fence about Newgate, Radbeam, Marco, and we have not received any word from Bandai except for the fact that they said that they will say something on release day. I don't know if I have that right.
They said that? Yo, I've been waiting.
I
I didn't
haven't
even
heard that.
know.
Is that true?
I mean,
It might be true.
I
I mean, they're
look,
gonna
look.
say something.
Yeah.
They have to say something. Like they have to say. Let's just roll that back and say they have to say something on release day at the latest. Um, do we like this? How do we feel about that? Do we want the band back? Do we like it? What do you think, Cross?
Yo, I want the ban to be lifted, and I feel like there's probably a lot of people who feel this way. I'm not a Whitebeard player, you know what I'm saying? I don't really play Whitebeard, but bro, I would much rather the ban be lifted. Whitebeard's still one of the best decks, and have Yellow be like one of the best decks in the game. But even outside of that, to be honest, even just looking into OP-05, right? Like, Bandai, all their stuff is unbanned, and Red is no longer like the strongest deck. So it'll eventually get fixed, and I feel like Set 4 has like good enough decks to where it's fine if Whitebeard and Zoro are still really good. And then look what happened in set 3. They hit it. Zoro and Whitebeard still two of the best decks, bro. Like, it didn't even do anything.
All right, what do you think, Boris?
Yeah, I think and Cross probably knows more because he's been hosting a lot of these tournaments. But it seems like the format is just super slow. Which then kind of leads you to some of these super stally decks, and it comes down to like Katakuri. Eventually, who gets the most 10 drops, whether it's 10 drop Big Mom, 10 drop Doflamingo. It's just who ends up drawing most of their big guys, right? I think it'd be interesting if they did keep the bans, but then they added more limits. I wonder, I don't even know what cards they would hit, but that could be a possibility too. Is that
imagine if they hit 10 cost also? What would happen to the meta if they limited? They're just we're not going to lift the ban, but we're also going to put 10 cost Mom to 1.
Yeah, but I just don't know how good of an insight they have, because the previous bans were based on Japanese results from those tournaments. They don't have data for OP-04 with those restrictions, right? So.
Well, we got the data. We got the freaking data, and the data says.
Yeah. So.
this is what the data says. I was playing a cat mirror the other day. I have 6 Dawn. I forgot to play a 6-drop. Like my brain turned off because it's the mirror. I still won the game because I had more 10 drops than my opponent. I literally did nothing.
What that?
Oh, it was the Catamir. And my
God,
6 Dawn,
yeah.
my 6 Dawn, I just played nothing. I just forgot, and it's there's no takebacks on the sim, but I still won the game because I had more 10 costs than my opponent. I just that's how much it simplifies the game for these Catamirs, and people are not ready for that. People complain about Whitebeard. They're Whitebeard's so easy to play. Have you guys played Katakuri before? That it's you don't even Katakuri is so easy. You don't even have to do anything to win. You just hit 3 guys out of life and you won the game. You literally did nothing to win the game, but you went pero whatever. And now you're swinging, 20k worth of damage every turn for 0
It was kind of
Dawn.
like that, I'd say, in OP-03 a little bit, where I've lost to people who just go 8 drop, 10 drop, 10 drop. Literally just play those 3 cards and.
But at least if you're playing Whitebeard,
the format was a lot faster. OP-03 is a lot faster because it's Zoro and Whitebeard. Now the format's a lot slower.
It's a lot slower now, yeah.
Yeah. So.
People are not ready for that.
I personally do like slow formats, but not when there's a who draws the most of this or who draws the most of that or who hits the most triggers. I don't want the game to come down to that, right? I want it to be a slow game so that I can have more opportunities to outplay or more opportunities for my opponent to make mistakes. But if it's just gonna come down to who draws the most 10 drops, then
dude, there's no the thing is who makes the most mistakes is my voice you can make the most mistakes, but as long as you can count to 10 and then you can also visually see that your card has 10 Dawn, you can win a one-piece game.
Yeah.
So
I guess, what do you think? Do you think the games are going to be like that, or do you think there's going to be a lot of skill expression still available in the new format?
Without the nerf?
If the nerfs stay. If the nerfs stay.
Honestly, if the nerf stays, I feel like the format is going to be 20 times easier than if the nerf was lifted, right? And the reason I think this is because, once again, yellow is the best deck, kind of as I said, and yellow's pretty strong into some of the more skillful decks like Rebecca and stuff like that. So we're going to be seeing less of those, more yellow. And yellow, sure. I mean, I'm not going to say you can get some advantages here and there, but compared to playing Rebecca or having to fight against Whitebeards or more Rebecca being in the format, it's just so much simpler. Unless you're playing a deck it's just so much simpler, bro. I don't know. Even I have to say, even playing 4 9-beard Whitebeard into some of these new decks just feels more difficult than just playing Strawbeard, bro. I don't know, bro.
So do you think, just to get a little more back on topic, do you think that they should lift all the restrictions, even Radbeam? Because the one thing that I think most people are okay with is lifting the 9-beard and the 4-drop, but most people I've talked to fucking hate Radbeam.
Yeah, I think if they were to lift it, I think it would honestly be fine to leave Radbeam on the list, although I don't think that they will keep Radbeam on the list unless they also do that in Japan. Me personally, I'm kind of with Bandai's train of thought here because in other card games, they normally like to stay consistent with Japan. So if they don't restrict it in Japan, I would rather it stays unrestricted here. But overall, do I want it to be restricted? Yeah, I think Radbeam's a fair restriction, but I think they can lift 9-beard and Marco personally.
And I guess the last to wrap up this target, do you think 4-cost Marco should have ever been banned?
4-cost Marco, do I think it should have ever been banned?
Yeah.
So like imagine a world where they just hit only Ninebeard and Beam.
Yeah, in OP-03. Just to round off, our 3.5 experience, was Marco a mistake?
If they were gonna hit Ninebeard, I kind of feel like it was kind of fair of them to hit Forecast Marco probably because I feel like I could be wrong about this because I haven't actually tested it, but I feel like Forecast Marco just gives Zoro so much of an edge in the OP-03 format if they didn't hit it. Like I feel like I'm already beating Whitebeard to Zoro without Forecast Marco. I think with Forecast Marco would have just made all my matchups uh like 10 times better. So I feel like Zoro might have just been that much better. So if they are gonna nerf Whitebeard, I'm fine with them nerfing Zoro in that sense too.
Okay,
I
last
suppose.
arbitrary question about it. Instead of the 4 cost, should they have nerfed the 5 cost?
This is a hard one.
I'll say this about 5 costs. I do like that it gives you kind of a win condition for the deck. So I know Zoro is essentially the 4 Marcos are their win condition, so they get to build a deck around it. But it does provide it does kind of cause an issue in the meta where
the whole meta revolves around.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like in most card games, there's usually like a boogeyman, and so in this case, it's the Marco because if you play anything 3 costs or below against red, it's gonna get Marcoed. Before they could play Vista, but then it was a 3K on the board, and it really wasn't like huge. But the fact that you get a Marco that pops a 3K, and then you can kind of ride it to victory if you play it right. Um, I think it allowed potentially for some decks, but I do think eventually by the end of the format, I know I was really good. I think at playing around Marco. Like I just kept attacking it. They kept pitching cards, and then they were out of cards in hand. I just killed them. So I think the problem with Marco is just the 4 cost one is just a blocker that always comes back, and it's just really hard to get rid of it. At the beginning, players were messing up with it and blocking with it early and allowing me to get 5K pokes in against Whitebeard. But I think if if it would have stayed and as players got better, they would have known not to block early with it or things like that. So
Do you feel the same way, Cross, that the ban was justified, or you think it's they just did it because it's like we can't ban our new baby?
I think so. It's weird for me because I think 5 cost Marco in Zoro is kind of an issue, but at the same time, I feel like 4 cost Marco was the best way to still let Zoro still be very strong in OP-03 without completely hitting it. I think it's just weird. I think if they did hit 5 cost Marco, they would just have to give Zoro an alternative or something like that because it is kind of weird that they gave an aggro deck an invincible attacker that can also pop a 3K that also becomes 7K. All right, actually,
7K for free is OP.
I don't even need to say the rest. They made a
Yeah.
7K invincible attacker for an aggro deck. That is kind of insane, but it feels like if there's no alternative, I feel like we have to keep uh 5 cost Marco for the time being, just because it does feel kind of like it's broken.
It was
but
a
I
new
feel like
card. They can't ban a new
need
card.
an alternative.
You
They
know?
need an alternative in order to
Yeah.
justify hitting that field. But 4 cost Marco was easier to nerf the deck without sending it to the shadow realm.
And it's
is
just a
kinda how I feel
rare. It's
about
not
it.
a big deal. Okay. All right, next thing. And I know that Cross is going to have some insight on this. I personally love Nami. I think the thing that I dislike most in this OP-04 meta is the blue-yellow queen. I watched a game today. It went to turn 27. Purple of that queen against Rebecca.
27? What?
Turn 27. It went all the way. That deck is the worst, and the meta is really slow, and Nami just eats it up. It just eats up the slow decks, and if people don't know how to play around it, it just knowledge checks the crap out of them. And also, if you just get lucky, you're just the most unbeatable deck possible.
That is actually facts. It's worse than Kata sacking you, bro. Like, deadass.
Yeah, just for my personal opinion, been playing it a lot, it almost seems like as powerful as Law in a sense where if you see the right cards in the right spot, you're doing your thing, and there is literally nothing your opponent can do. It is, and which is very interesting about this whole thing, is that for a long time, we have known that Nami is the gatekeeper of the meta, and right now, it is gatekeeping really, really hard with these restrictions not lifted yet. The deck has its only bad matchup is Law, and like I kind of just said, both players have a game plan that is basically unstoppable. So it's kind of like who gets their game plan off. Even though I think Law has a better way of finding their pieces, so it kind of gives it an edge when you're trying to high roll if you have a better way to get to your high roll. But between Kaya's and Pilaf's, all you got to see is maybe out of those 8 copies, 3 of them of either one, and you're just going to fucking town on whatever you need. And I know that recently Anami won the largest of cross tournaments today, right? Is that how it went?
It won on Sunday. Yeah, it won like the second largest paid one that we've done so far, and it actually beat Law in the finals. Great to
Again.
Law player didn't have like Sanji and stuff, but it did beat
Wow.
Law in the finals.
It was a 2 out of 3,
It was
right, for those
it was
tournaments?
2 out of 3 too.
Yeah.
Two like
Oh,
two
That's
2-0,
crazy.
yeah.
That's crazy.
2-0, yeah.
So what do you
And
think? Oh, go
well,
ahead, Boris.
actually, wait. I think you interviewed the player, right, Cross, and they
Yeah, I did.
mentioned that
They said Law's the worst matchup. If that's what
you also asked them. I think did their opponents make any mistakes in the numbers they were using to attack, and he pretty much thought his opponents played it good. He didn't really notice them attacking wrong. So the fact that that happened and they still won is pretty impressive.
Yeah,
I'm low key scared of the deck.
yeah. I think Nami's really good. I'm low key surprised we didn't see more of it in OP-03. I think it's just because like I know I never tested it because I just didn't want to. I was just praying to God the deck like wasn't good because like bro, a deck like Nami being good is just rough. But like in reality, like after talking to like Gavin some more, he's the Japanese newscaster, and some other people about like Nami in this format. It was actually a very strong pick in OP-03. It's just a really strong gatekeeper deck. If you sack, you're basically unbeatable, and it just really feels like you can keep up with like most of the decks in the meta. And as Cody said, he said most of the people swing good enough, and he still won. Like you have to swing like almost like perfect against Nami unless they hit like no triggers. Like you got to be doing that. Like you got to know when to pass. You got to know when to swing 9 when you're pushing a bunch of 7s. Like you just got to do all of that stuff right, and Nami could still sack you and just win the game. So I think it's a very strong deck that was definitely very like underrated and underrepresented in OP-03.
Would you take that kind of deck to a big tournament, 9 round tournament?
Would I
Or
take it if it's like if Nami hasn't like gone too far in the tournament yet, which it hasn't in NA? Yes, it is a legitimate consideration for me because I think most people don't know how to attack against Nami. That's just 3 wins, right? And then
that's
even
true.
for the
Yeah.
people who like do or have decks that can beat it, I'm gonna just sack them. You know what I'm saying? Just sack them.
So
Yeah,
this,
because Alchemist and I were discussing this the other day, and I'm like, I'm just scared. Like it's kind of like Law, where you kind of expect to whiff for like to have a bad draw, like probably 1 or 2 rounds. But if the format is really slow, it might not even matter if you have a bad draw. Like you might just be able to take it. Especially if you see all these queens and Rebecca's and stuff going around.
if you see the right matchups, you're definitely winning some of these games because, yeah, I mean, even the Rebecca player, which I think has like a better matchup, they have to play it correctly. I think one of the reasons why Nami didn't appear in the OP-03 format is probably because of Whitebeard existing too. Like I think it's not a bad matchup, but it feels kind of bad to lose to Whitebeard when you have to see your cards perfectly and they can just steamroll you. Um, I think Nami also doesn't have the best matchup into Katakuri because you're gonna lose a trigger to potentially, like the Katakuri player can just leave the Nami. At least what I've seen, you can leave Nami at 2 life, and then go back to back Big Moms, and just kill their last 2 triggers and just go in. So this whole thing coming back to Katakuri is kind of like really annoying. But Nami is insane.
Oh, Katakuri is pretty good against Nami. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Wait. You finish and I'll say what I'm saying.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
I was gonna say actually. So while I was talking to a Japanese newscaster about it, he was like, "Oh, and he's good at the game, by the way. Like he always he's always gets right predictions and stuff like that." But I was asking him what he thinks Nami's bad matchups are in our meta, and aside from Law, he said that the only other deck he'd be concerned about is yellow. So I want to do some yellow versus Nami testing. He told me that a yellow player can literally like not attack, get like a bunch of big bodies, like get like 10 cost moms and stuff like that. Then he said that if they swing like a bunch of huge numbers at once, that Nami gets like messed up. And he said the reason for this was that Nami has to leave up like too much Dawn in order to start like defending, even though they like built in and stuff like that. So I want to test the most optimal way. I think it's either like you said it, you leave them at like low life and then just burn them, or there might be like a small like star strat where you just let them build up cards and then your attacks are too big so they can't do anything. So
And they're kind of
yeah.
built. The deck is built because, like, okay, let's say the meta does shift to like a ton of Nami. you could just start playing cards like Pudding and stuff that actively take your own life to get larger attacks. Because Sanji against Nami is really annoying. Like
Yeah,
getting
yeah.
pinged for 7K for basically free every turn, and they're seeing cards, yada yada. Like so, and then also one thing that I don't think people are ready for. I was saying that the yellow mirror is bad. Yo, if we ever devolve into Nami mirrors, oh my gosh, it's gonna be
Yo.
okay. All right, I got 10 Dawn, I'll pass it to you. And he's like, I got 10 Dawn too. I'm gonna pass it to you. It's like that's really funny. I'm just gonna go ahead and peel off and pass to you. So
Yeah,
it's like the
that
entire
sounds
matchup.
like an atrocity, bro.
So all right, next thing we've kind of covered this. So let's get everybody's opinion. Let's start with Boris. What do you think is going to be the best deck in the format? Let's call it before the horses even get out of the gate.
It's gonna be best deck or most played deck.
No, it's the best deck.
Represented.
Most powerful.
Yeah.
Like if you're saying I think X is the best, I'm gonna put you on it. We're gonna put you on a take.
Obviously, I think Katakuri is up there, but you guys are probably gonna choose that. So if I just to choose something else,
We could all choose Katakuri. That's okay.
I'm gonna go with and assuming restrictions, right? Assuming
Yeah,
restrictions.
yeah. So all this could just
I'm gonna
like
go
mean
with
nothing.
Dofi. I'm gonna go with just because I was watching the yesterday and it looks impressive, and I just think the film package is really strong. I think people have to find the correct build. I think there's two builds right now. Like you either go with like the early aggression with Brook and Usopp's, or you kind of go more late game. I think that we have to see which kind of build ends up being the better one, but I just think Punk Gibson is still one of the best cards in the game.
Okay.
Still catches people off guard, and the ability just to have super consistent searches with both the searches from Nami and the searches from Buena Festa, being able to tap permanently 3 cards for a turn. That's something new that we haven't really seen yet in the game. So I think a lot of people will not be playing around it early on. I'll just pick that. And of course, like I said, I'm a green main, so we'll see if I can maybe figure it out or something. But yeah.
Okay, we got a Dofi. All right, Cross.
All right. So even with Katakuri as a suggestion, I personally think that Law is the best deck. Like in my personal opinion, I do think that Law is the strongest. Sorry. Oh my. Okay. Sorry. My bad. I just saw something that needs to stop. All right. Anyways, yeah. I think Law is the best deck. The reason I think it's gonna be one of the strongest decks is due to Yellow's boost in popularity. I think that'll be really good for beating Yellow, and you can also beat like Strawberry as well once you figure out the plan. Like it was kind of rough at first, but now that I know how to like play against Strawberry and stuff like that, Whitebeard feels pretty easy as well. You do have a sketchy Rebecca matchup, but it's kind of strange, right? Because whenever I mention Law, they're like, oh, but you lose to Rebecca. But whenever I mention Rebecca, they're like, oh, but you lose to Yellow, right? So like,
Yeah.
yo, if Rebecca's gonna lose to the most popular deck, I'm fine with taking Law. If I lose to like the one Rebecca player that made it far, it is what it is, bro. So like, yeah, I think Law will be solid because I think the only like really bad matchup is probably Rebecca to me. Purple Flamingo is a weird matchup as well, but I personally think it's favored. So we'll be doing more testing.
So just on a side thing, you think that Law, like, what is the matchup spread you think Law to Katakuri? Because I think it's a lot closer than it used to be. I think the Katakuri is such a package that actually has a chance against Law, unlike OP-03.
I don't. Unless they're playing like I don't know like weird stuff like Pound, which I haven't really tested against. Like I'm not like too scared about it. Like I think them getting like blocker Sanji's like nice, but I've seen a lot of them. I've seen a lot of yellow players only playing like 8 triggers max. I think that if you're gonna be Law, you have 2 options. You either have to like starve them then swing at once, or you have to like aggro them and then just hope they don't have enough like blockers, or you can get rid of enough blockers and stuff like that. So if they have less triggers to be like aggressive and stuff like that, I'm not too worried. I think it's better than before because you have like Sanji as a blocker as well, which means you can like prolong the game longer and stuff like that. But I don't know yet. I gotta play more. I gotta play more against both strategies of Kata, and yeah. But I still think Law's. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a Law like meat writer, but
No,
we'll test it. I'll test it some more. For sure.
I think you might be right. I think the one gripe I have about all of it is that while Law is probably the most powerful deck, its lack of consistency and like high skill ceiling I think maybe knock it down a little bit from the best deck. I'll stick with the Katakuri. I think Katakuri is going to be the best deck because with a 9 round tournament, you're pretty much always going to see your cards. You're pretty much just like I'm sorry to the yellow players, but you're literally turning your brain off. Like I go 6, 8, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, and then I go attack with everything. Like it's you can't mess it up is the thing. It's really easy to mess up law and your whole game plan to fall apart. You cannot mess up Katakuri. You just can't mess it up. And in a 10 round tournament, that is so fucking good.
Yeah, I think it's similar to Wipeout in that sense. But like, cause I mean, I said the same. I mean, yeah, I get the argument that Cat is the best deck this set. Like, I think many people would say Whitebeard's like best deck last set too. I would argue that it's not, but it's always gonna like do the best or like be consistently the best because like it's obviously a really powerful deck. Like they're always like top 2, top 3 decks. Everybody's playing it and it's consistent. So like
And it's easy to
yeah, I
play.
think
Like
Cat is definitely gonna have the best results. So I guess like technically it is like one of the best decks to, or maybe it is like the best deck to take to the tournament. Because I mean it will probably always get like top 8, try to be close to winning.
yeah, between it's gonna have the representation. It's gonna
Yeah.
have people who don't make the mistakes, and it's just like way harder to pilot. Like the best deck in OP-03 was Zoro, but it was also the second hardest deck to pilot. So nobody made it that far because you just make one stupid mistake and your whole game is over, and that's
Yeah.
just gonna happen. To, but I will say one thing. I guess whoever has been piloting Law for all of OPO 2 or 3, those guys are going to love the first 2 months of this meta.
Yeah,
You
they're
were,
the people going to
I'm
get
loving
rewarded.
it.
yeah.
I'm loving it.
Oh yeah, I
Nick,
forgot. We got a
Nick,
winner. We
Nick,
got a
Nick,
winner
Nick.
Law right here. This guy's gonna be eaten. This is gonna be like, dude, that's gonna serial shank City, man. Like,
Oh yeah.
like,
I wish I could go to Knoxville, bro. That sounds like
is it just too much, or is it too? You got stuff going on. You don't want to go. Region, no point going to a regional anymore.
dude, it's like $700 something to go. I mean, like the
Dang.
trade off is good if I'm gonna top, but like instead, I'm going to South Carolina 3v3 with Jackson Huang and
What?
Clay
No.
Hill. So like we got
No.
a super team. You know what I'm saying? We got
No.
a super team,
All right,
bro.
guys, everybody cancel your trip to North Carolina. Dude.
Yeah, let me go refund my ticket.
Yeah,
Real quick.
dude. I hate you guys. Who's your guys' third?
It's a player named Clay Hill. You might not know him, but he's from Arizona.
No, he's
like,
on your neck of the woods, right?
He's a Lucci. Is he a Lucci player?
yeah, he's a Lucci
yeah,
player. Look,
Oh.
he only has played Lucci and Black in tournaments, but I'm telling you, bro, with blue, with like Rebecca being like one of the best decks, he will figure out how to beat yellow. I don't know about blue Croc, but he will figure out how to beat yellow. I got him winning high key. I don't know how long this season lasts, but I got Clay winning. I gotta say, winning or getting second place at least 2 tournaments this season.
If he can figure out the yellow matchup, I would strongly consider playing Rebecca.
Yeah, Rebecca is actually the deck that I was looking to play, and then we played yesterday, like a few kata games, and I'm like, oh, I'm off this deck now. Like,
Yo, play me with yellow later. I'll play me with yellow. I'll beat you with Rebecca. I got you. I just don't know how consistent it is, but
yeah.
yeah, I'll beat you with Rebecca though. Let's run it, bro.
It's so tough. What about the Law? Because we were playing it. It seems like the Law can put up like a decent fight, but if
It's
the
Rush
Rebecca,
Luffy. It's the Rush Luffys that do it.
yeah.
Oh yeah, Rush. Yeah.
We're running 2 Rush Luffys. I wasn't expecting this.
Wait, a decent fight against what, Rebecca?
No, yeah. Like Law can put up like a decent fight against Rebecca, but it feels like the Rebecca is always one step ahead of the Law most time. It can keep like the Law suppressed enough that it's never really able to have a clean finisher.
I think it's possible to beat the current Rebecca list with Law by hopefully being aggressive enough. But if Rebecca does get a better list, the Law matchup might literally just be doomed. Like if they started playing like 10
Oh no.
and stuff like that, it might be cursed. Like there's like one other idea I have that I'm like I still haven't tested out yet and I think could be hot, but like I don't know, bro.
Well, the grind continues. So we're going to move on to our probably most awaited topic. What is everybody playing? Who wants to tackle that one first? Who's going to give away their...
I mean, I can go first because I still don't know what I'm playing.
Let's switch it. If you had to choose like today, if you're like, all right, later on I got to go run regional. You know, like, what are you taking?
Yeah, I would probably just play just the Dofi deck, just because again I've done well with the Film Kid back in set 3. So I kind of have an idea. I really like the play style of that. You miss out on the double attack, which really was the best part of the deck from the kid leader, but you know, you get 2 Dawn back every turn. So at least it's a deck that I would feel comfortable and familiar with. However, I don't think it's the deck that I would like to play long term in this format. I think because it is going to be a slow format, I think if I can find the deck that can keep up with the slow decks and have a good matchup versus Katakuri and you know, not insta lose to Nami, like it's hard. It's going to be hard to find a deck that I think fits. If it's just, you know, Kid's gone, maybe I can make Kid work, but we'll see. So.
Just as a side note, I don't know if I sent this to you, and there was an OP-05 Kid list that topped, like one of these things. So
Yeah.
Kid might be
Cost
bad.
Kid or film? It cost for film.
No, neither. It like didn't.
Oh,
It was
it's
a
a
seven.
7-drop Kid.
It's a
Yeah,
7-drop
it's a 7.
Kid. We're gonna call it 7-drop Kid. Okay. Okay, Cross. What are you taking? What are you taking to our made-up regional?
Okay. I have to pick one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it would just be Law then. Like, Law or Rebecca. Easily, I would either take one of those. I think. Yeah.
Are you running Red Rocks in your Rebecca list, or is Red Rock not it?
Okay. Actually, I love that we're talking about this right now. With any Rebecca player, I absolutely despise Red Rock and Rebecca, bro. I hate it, bro. I'm gonna be honest. And my argument before I get flamed by anybody, my argument is that I just like Orlumbus and Sword more. Even though Sword requires 15 and trash, the thing is, I get to establish a body, use the Sword. I have 2 down left to play like a 1-drop and use leader ability. But whenever I've used Red Rock, it's just been too expensive, and then I do nothing else for the rest of the turn. I don't think it's the worst. I just think that Sword's overall been better in my experience, just because I can establish a body while still popping a 10-drop, still leader skill, play 1-drop. But that's my take on it. But
we were actually testing that yesterday, and I actually was like came to the same conclusion. I'm like, every time I'd use Red Rock, I'd rather it just be a 3,000 world or something, because it's the same thing.
Oh yeah,
and then I end up getting 2 extra Dawns, and the deck is very Dawn hungry, because every turn you want to pay 1 for Rebecca, you want to play 1 for other things, and so I was actually thinking the exact same thing. Actually, yeah, I was like maybe cut the Red Rocks, because I don't really need them, because I already have a lot of ways to you have Suru as like there's just so many ways to lower costs in the deck.
Yeah.
And then potentially play out like more sword, like the Bastard Sword, or like the 3,000 worlds. So.
What is it called in English? It's not Bastard Sword, right? It's like Great Sword of Destruction or something.
I don't know.
Whatever.
I haven't seen the name.
All right. So I'm taking Nami. People are not ready.
Oh, you're taking Nami.
I'm gonna take. No, Nami's it, because the thing is there's one thing that I think is a huge advantage in card games, at least from the beginning, is things that are underexplored. And there are not enough Nami players out there that are doing it at a high level for people to have good practice against it. The best people know maybe is they know, like, swing 5 or 9. But they're definitely not gaming against Nami. They're not ready for the intricacies of, like, doing the math. And the Nami player is going to have a way more intricate game plan and know their game plan way more than their opponent ever will, which is not to be said for all decks. I think the people are just not prepared for it, and that shit goes huge at these regionals. People practice against whatever they think is going to be there. If they don't have good Nami practice, they're totally screwed. They're going to swing 6 at me, and it's going to be over. You guys have any thoughts on that? Pretty much.
I think it's valid. I think Nami's a really good pick. Like, aside from, if I didn't take Laura or Rebecca, Nami'd be.
Yeah, are you afraid to take Nami? Is that it? Are you afraid?
I'm not afraid. I just think I know I could just cook with Laura Rebecca, so I'm like, okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, might as well use the skill expression while it still exists in the game.
Yeah.
No, that makes a lot of sense. All right, well, I think that actually wraps everything up. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We're going to hopefully be cranking these out weekly. And, this was a lot of fun, guys. Thanks. I appreciate it.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks for hosting, and peace, everyone.
Peace.